This is David Espinosa, David Manuel Espinosa, David Espinosa Jr., Ishby Corp, Ishby Industries, and I had a bit of a night of some, oh my goodness, just an abundance. I've had a night of an abundance of creatively flowing juices that I am so just, I feel like I'm glowing to myself in a way that has been a little bit, how do I say, almost seems a bit haughty, Haughty, haughty. And for those of you millennial and Y and XY and predator generations that are being birthed right now, generations that are supposedly heading into the sixth mass extinction. And I've talked about this before. I've said it before. I've said it months ago. I've said it in the last 2 years. I've mentioned it quite a bit, that we are within the sixth or seventh mass extinction. The earth has gone extinct of life 6 other times. There's nothing new. Mother Earth says, I'm tired of these ants, people, humans. A friend of mine who I go camping with quite a bit, we go camping and we go and do these trips where 2 or 3 days. He's done, ice camping and snow and like wilderness, outer edge of the, range that I don't really like to do as much because I'm used to glamping. When I go camping, I'm used to glamping. When I go camping, I'm used to rolling my car up like we do, up to the parking spot, with our nice little already formed, fire pits, which are good so they don't start forest fires and all that kind of stuff. But we dumped the entire kitchen sink out on a plotted camping. We get to be out in nature. Excuse me, I was shouting quite a bit tonight. I was shouting angrily. I was shouting angrily at the attitude that I still get, the attitude that is just so awful and horrible. I was just inspired to do this little rendition here, and I hope it goes well, and I hope it comes out eloquent, I hope it comes out intelligent, I hope it comes out, and I use the word sophisticated quite a bit, and I privilege myself with that word every now and then, not because I'm so full of myself, but maybe sometimes I am, I'm not sure. I've said it before, if I'm not full of myself, who am I full of then? If you can't be full of yourself, then who can you be full of? Be full of yourself. Be full of yourself, but don't be a fool of yourself. Be full of yourself, but don't be a fool of yourself. Isn't that interesting? But you know what's funny is that you can't not be a fool of yourself unless you every once in a while make a fool of yourself. That's the fun part. That's the fun contradiction part that we hate. We hate that fun contradiction part. It's something that you don't think about, and that is that be full of yourself. Be you. Be full of yourself. But don't be a fool of yourself. But you can't not be a fool of yourself unless you every once in a while make a fool of yourself. And then when you make a fool of yourself, you learn to not be so full of yourself, but then you love yourself every once in a while because something happens that says, oh my gosh, when I learn to not make a fool of myself, then I want to be full of myself because then I start to love myself. And it's that vicious cycle of life that is just so absolutely normal. That's what life is about. Life is about being. And being means you make mistakes. Being means you trip on things once in a while, and you trip on your attitude, and you trip on your jealousy, and you trip on your anger, and you trip on it, and you have a chance to make a correction. You have a chance to pick up that thing that tripped you. Damn it, I tripped on my problem again. Damn it, I tripped on my issue again. Damn it, I tripped on my... Gosh, why can't I get over that relationship or that jealousy or that whatever it might be? That job that I lost, the opportunity that I didn't take, or the bad grade that I got, or the fact that I didn't clean my kitchen tonight, or take out the trash and it's going to stink tomorrow, or that I went out and I drank too much. Now I'm hungover all day today, and God forbid that San Diego and the land of eternal sunshine and summer vacation, God forbid I stay in one day and be hungover and make cookies and bread and eat pizza and gorge on ice cream and watch movies all day. But God forbid that we waste. Seriously, God forbid that we waste. I was just inspired to make this recording because I was just watching a 60 Minutes that looked like it was just recorded recently. And it was called The Lost Wild or something. And it was about, excuse me, while I take a drink of my Miller Lite. Taking a drink of my Miller Lite that's coming right out of a nice, beautiful crystalline. It's a nice crystal. Wine glass that does have a beautiful sound when you get it vibrating correctly. And I'm drinking a Miller Lite out of a wine glass. It just feels much more sophisticated, if I could so privilege myself with a pat on the back and say, yes, I am sophisticated, right? It's been a minute since I've had a chance to kind of break it down here on an audio recording because I've been going through hell. I've been going through literal hell. And I've had a reprieve. I've had a beautiful reprieve, and I'd like to give some shout-outs to some very beautiful, amazing, beautiful friends. I'd like to give a thank you and a shout-out to Ken, to Brett Ortiz, to Patricia, to my friend Kimberla, and to my friend Dean, and to my friends who have reached out, and to a few others that just were able to send me a quick message on some direct mailing, direct messaging ways, and just say, hey, I wanted to check in with you. Seems like you are a little bit different lately, and there are some that were just, that maybe had good intentions, but did it in such horrible ways. And then there were people that were really the ones that are still kind of trying to abuse me a bit. They're holding on to a thing or a message or a process or a show that I keep hearing about that just won't let go. And so I was angry earlier. I was angry and I was shouting quite a bit. My throat's a little bit scratchy. And I don't like getting angry like that. And I don't like shouting out at the wind and the air and the walls around me. But I've got to let that anger out. I've got traumas that are so just deep. The scars and the wounds run deep. And they're freshly healing. They're not even scabbed over yet, my wounds. They're still bleeding. My wounds are still bleeding, and I get a bit more of the attack. And it happened again today a couple times. Because I've been gone for a couple days, I went to visit a girlfriend, and it was such a beautiful freaking weekend. Oh my gosh. I learned to appreciate things so much differently than I did before. And one time, I've said this before, I came across a meme or a memery or something, a platitude little, because the last couple of years, everybody's a freaking motivational speaker and everybody wants to help each other. That's a great thing. I think they come from a good place. Everybody wants to help themselves and they want to help each other. So we share these things. We share these memes that come off as a bit pious, a bit, almost theological in some ways, and they come off as very, we love it lately, and it's, I think, like has been predicted, as I heard a few years ago, moving into the age of Aquarius. I forget what the age was before, but we're moving into an age of Aquarius, and we're moving into a millennial generation. And when I say millennial, I don't just mean the demographic age group that came after the Gen Xers. I don't mean just an age in an era of people that were born in this year to that year, but I mean in a millennial type of way that sounds very millennial, like. We reached a thousand. What is a millennium? Is 1,000 years? We're entering a new 1,000-year period, people. We're moving into a 1,000-year period that has been quantum leapfrogged into a space of a generational gap in many ways, but also a generational merger in some ways, and a generational just freaking jumped off the freaking cliffs of insanity. And said, here is this technology that has burst us into instant manifestational nowness. So that's one topic that I was upset about earlier. It was just, feeling a bit of, hey, I have fresh wounds. Do you think that somebody like me, and this is what's been going on, is that I've said it before also, I'm repeating some things because I'm repeating things in a way that is now this is the new era for me. It's like, so we have our new collective era where we are, but there's an era of you and you and you and them and her and he and she, and it's a new era for everybody individually. So we're all going through this collective growth in some way. And in some of that growth, there is a bit of, hey, there's been a couple of forest fires, so to speak. We've had a couple of different situations lately that, excuse me, people don't want to admit have been going on. People are so desperately hanging on to this death grip of, I don't want to accept what life is like for us together. I don't want to accept what life is like for me. I don't want to accept, that's what we're saying. Everybody's individual. I see it. It's so evident in everybody's demeanor and their actions and their lives daily. I don't want to accept it. And it doesn't mean that I'm calling people out on the fact that we don't want to talk about some things outwardly and openly, because I don't even think it needs to be done anymore. It can be done. But I was with a friend this weekend. I told you I was one of my dear friends from I've known since 5th grade. She knows everything about me. Maybe not everything, but she knows enough about me to be like, we don't need to talk. And I know that we all get really bored and just overdue with how many times. Sometimes I may bring up certain topics, but we're still dealing with it. We wouldn't have to hear me bore everybody to death with some things if we weren't still dealing with it. And we are still dealing with it because I get the attitude. As long as I get the attitude from certain people and certain demographics and certain gangs that just won't let the fuck go. Let it go, people. Let it go. Take your grimy, gripped fingers of insecurity and pull them one by one off, slimy finger one by one off my life. And as much as I would like to be caring and compassionate towards, I just don't have it in me anymore to relate to that idea anymore. If I have to cut your fingers off one by one or cut your hands off one by one as they're gripping my throat and squeezing the last bits of air flowing through my lungs, I will do it. I will do whatever it takes to get your grip, your death grip, whatever government fucking excuse you want to give yourselves to continually do it publicly with whatever AI, IT, fucking disgusting terms and agreements, conditions and covenants and restrictions you want to have on my life. I'm not your HOA. I'm not your place to live. I'm not your airport. I'm not your travel. I'm not your live vicariously through Dave bullshit punching bag anymore. It's time to get your grip off of me, Hollywood, whatever. Whoever is doing it, you know you are doing it, and I'm going to find you out one way or the other. I'm going to get ya. You guys used to sing to me and remind me of songs like, what were the songs? They were songs like, I always feel like somebody's watching me. That was one of the songs that always came to me, but it was, I forget, it was one of the police songs in the cars. No pun intended, but how apropos it is and how poignant it is that you picked those songs, because they're coming back to bite you in the ass. They surely are. Because they were songs, I know they will come to me, but they're songs about, no matter where you go, I'm always going to be watching you. Okay, well, great. Because now you watching me is exactly what you wish you would have never done, because you watching me is trackable. you watching me and you watching us and you having your Patriot Act fucking sorry excuse to continually spy on us, whether it's the Patriot Act or whether it's actually, the Patriot Act might be doing us some good right now. Actually, the Patriot Act might be the thing that saves us. Actually, the Patriot Act could be something that saves us, hopefully. But it's the social media and app and everything else excuse that says, just because I use your product, I've signed my life away to you. That is the biggest load of constitutional breach in my rights bullshit. Any civil liberties union right now that could be barely holding on, hopefully, by the fucking hair on your chinny chin chin. Literally, where's the civil liberties union at? Where's the ACLU at right now? I want to know, what's the status of the ACLU? Because I think the Democratic Party is having an issue right now, and it's called self-destruction. The Democratic Party is... it's the Democratic Party, I think. And I'm sorry, I don't know much about politics. I'm not a political figure. I know very little about politics, honestly. And if I get down that road, I'm going to sound very unintelligent and probably very, uneducated, which I am. I'm not educated in politics at all. I'm educated in some opinions, but I think I have some very educated opinions based on life experience. Life experience and an education that does kind of involve at least some philosophy and some theology and some logic that maybe, a theology that goes into, okay, at least I know some golden rules. I know some golden rules. And if that's the only theology that I know, God help us and help me and help you. Because golden rules are amazing. Golden rules are a beautiful thing, and we need to get back to some golden rules, because guess what? Everything that we live on and live through and live about and live, why? Why do we live? There are some golden rules upon which everything is structured. Even the very buildings that we call homes and houses and the roads are built on a structure that have some root in the golden rules. You don't lie, you don't cheat, and you don't steal. You know why? Because there is a foundation upon which we build our lives. There is a rule that says 1 + 1 is 2. 2 + 2 is 4. 4 + 4 is 8. That's the lovely and beautiful thing about mathematics. It's linear. There's always a solid one answer, and that is amazing. There's no word problem about 1 + 1 is 2, unless you're going to go through, the square root of the velocity of something that was coming around the mountain when she comes, and then it's like if she slowed down because there was a headwind and she was carrying 2 tons of strawberries and they fell off the wagon. Somewhere around the bump that goes in the night, down the road, about 2 kilometers up the mile radius of the circumference of pi. How many people were in her car? No, it's not one of those questions. 1 + 1 is 2. But what happens when 1 + 1 is not 2 anymore? Because we chose to lie about it. Because we chose to lie about it or fudge the answer just a little bit to save something on our taxes, or to save our asses when we didn't give somebody the correct change. Or because we decided that today 1 + 1 is not 2, but 1 + 1 means 3 when you're in a relationship with the one that doesn't want to have the third. You see? Because the structures upon which we built 1 + 1 is 2, like the codes and the ethics that say, hey, you know what? If I don't cut this board right and this beam right, this house might fall over because 1 + 1 is 2. But what if I'm just in a hurry and I'm not going to tell you that 1 + 1 today was maybe 3/4 of 2? Because I shied or I cut back just a little bit to save this or do that, or because I wasn't ethical enough to go back and pay for my mistakes, because I shortchanged you, or I shorted you on that 2x4, that 4x whatever, that was supposed to hold up the structure called your home, or your Constitution of the United States of America, or your founding this, or your founding that, or because I want to fool you into thinking that this was better than that, when really I gave you a load of crap. Where are your foundations? Are they built on something solid that says, I will never waver from this idea? I will never waver from the idea that it is better to feel better than to feel bad. And that when shortchanging somebody on 1 + 1 = 2 for the day, when shortchanging somebody makes me feel bad, that's a good thing. I should want to do better every day. I should want to be better, and I should want you to be better and feel better because I built your house, or I built this government, or we defended it the way that it should have been defended. That we offered help to everybody equally because they have just as much of a right to pursue happiness. And if their pursuit of happiness means having something that I said was going to equal 2, then God damn it, 1 + 1 = 2, and I will give you your full worth for what you paid for. Because the contract said that's what we do. Because we have a contract in life here that says we're all born with these inalienable rights, with the equal right to pursue, the equal right to pursue. I have every right to pursue happiness just as much as you. And my happiness and my love does not threaten you. And when it does, you have no right to hurt me and make my happiness less, because that makes you more happy. Because we have golden rules that say, do unto others as you want done unto you. Don't do unto others as someone else said you're supposed to, or because you're jealous and because you're jealous of someone else's happiness and the things that taking away from them makes you a better or happy person. Rewinding back a little bit to this little 60 minutes blurb, and I may be, hopefully I'm not being too overly jumping to conclusions, but I have said it before that, yes, we are in a mass extinction. Our diversity is, number one, not only is it just waning just naturally because we are inhabiting spaces that were once inhabited by animals and wildlife and landscapes that are shrinking, just like the report said. Our wildlife spaces, I heard that was a possible theory as to why some of the monkeypox and other diseases are becoming a bit more jumping like species tracks, so to speak, because they're running out of places to live. These wild organisms, whether it's an animal or it's a fungus, they're running out of natural places to live. So what do? They're jumping onto whatever's taking up their space. They're jumping onto humans that are invading that space. And when those organisms jump onto us, we've got to learn how to defend ourselves from these viruses and organisms and other species of life that now need a place to live. Because now we took up that space. And I'm not an expert on all of like this biological, whatever's happening. I'm not an expert. I just throw out ideas and I throw out food for thought. And then I throw out a bit of, and when I say throw it out, I mean toss in, really. I'm tossing in my ideas on these things. And some of it makes me a little upset because this 60 minutes video is talking about how the mass extinction should have happened in the 70s when their calculations said that there was 3 billion people in the world and there was no more room for more people to live because we're eating too much and we're wasting too much. Or not, actually, it didn't say anything about waste. It said that we are consuming too much. Not a word was mentioned about waste. Not a word about waste, but a lot of words about overpopulation and consumption. We're consuming too much and overpopulation. We are taking... In the 70s, really? And even now, with 8 billion people on the earth, when you look out and see, oh my goodness, I rode the train down from North County today. I rode the train from Carlsbad down to San Diego, and I looked out and I was like, wow, there's a lot of wilderness space. There's a lot of wilderness space. And if you fly over the country, you see lots of empty spaces. It looks like there's things that we also need, like water and infrastructure and these things. And we definitely have like the metropolitan sprawl is definitely, we do definitely need more density, because if we are able to do it right, then we can plan for density instead of taking up our parklands and our wild spaces, because we need those. We absolutely need those. But the waste, I'm concerned that we are blaming overpopulation and we're blaming consumption, which is definitely consumption is a problem, but even just alongside of consumption is waste. I lived, except for the last 2.5 weeks or so, 2 to 3 weeks, the 8 or to 12 weeks before that, I lived off of $40 pretty much. I had a few dollars that I frivolously spent, but I had $40 left to spend, $40 to $50 or so. I lived for 8 weeks minimum on $40 of food. $40 of food I lived off of for 8 weeks. That doesn't include a small box of storage food that I had in my shed, my little garden tool shed, that I had packed at the beginning of 2020. It was around April of 2020 when the pandemic was hitting, when COVID was hitting. I made an emergency food box, and I put an oximeter in there. I put some cough drops, some cold medicine, some flu medicine, some saline nose spray. I put in there some water and a lot of canned food, a bit. I should have put more. And that lasted me about, almost a month. It was rice, beans, canned veggies, water, coffee, and that was it. Coffee, some cold medicines, water, beans, rice, veggies, and coffee. You know where my priorities are. It was amazing. And then I was running out of food, and I didn't have the money so I bought a bag of flour. And I was like, what is sustaining and filling that I can do cheaply? And so I actually decided to pass up on the yeast and just do flatbread, tortillas, living off of tortillas and rice and beans. I was making homemade tortillas. I still am. And actually, it may be just a regular part of my life from now on, because they're so delicious and they're so easy to make. Tortillas is just flour, oil, salt, and water. That's it. 2 cups of flour, a 1/4 cup of oil, 3/4 cup of water, and a tablespoon a tablespoon of salt for a good flavor, maybe a little bit less. That's it. That is it. I can make a dozen tortillas about the size of my hand spread out, which is, I'd say, I don't know. What? Let's see, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 inches, 8 inches in diameter from my middle finger to my wrist is about 8 inches, 9 inches. Let's see, I don't have a ruler right here. I'd say, yeah. Let's see, I'm putting my hand up on the wall here. If I drew a circle around that, I'd say it's about an 8 inch in diameter circle. That's like a nice sized tortilla. A dozen of them. If I ate a dozen tortillas every 2 days, 2, 4, 6 a day, 2 in the morning, 2 for lunch, 2 in the evening, and I had a can of beans that lasted me each day. Now that is survival. Come on, that is survival, okay? Yes, that's survival. Of course, I had a little bit extras here and there for some things to keep me, of course. I think I did go through a little bit of a iron deficiency. I was craving red meat after 2-3 weeks. I was craving red meat, and I found a frozen hamburger patty it was actually a bison burger that I had. It's probably been in there a year, but it was still in good condition. I thawed it out, and I had some red meat. I was like, my body was craving iron. 2 weeks ago, a good friend of mine invited me over for dinner. We went to a really lovely dinner, and he invited me to crash at his house a couple of days. And I realized how much I had missed red meat for a minute. I don't eat a lot of red meats at all, really. I don't. In a normal time, I will eat maybe like a hamburger or something of red meat, like maybe once a month or so, maybe a couple of times a month. I'll have an In-N-Out burger or something, and but most of the time I'm eating chicken or pork or tuna, Anyway, he offered me, he just happened to have them in his cupboard, but some chelated minerals that had a bit of iron in them, or some irons I'm just talking about food. I was just thinking with this 60 minutes report, which I just barely only got through like 5-10 minutes of 60 minutes. I was already a bit taken back by the idea that it's just population growth and consumption, when if we do it right, there's enough for people. I think there's enough. I don't know. I didn't get to watch the entire thing in the science, but when I look, and the reason why I was telling this story about my food is because when you have $40 to last you for 2 months, and I already grew up in a very frugal environment. My grandmother is a post-World War II Franco survivor. And her family is very poor from southern Spain. And I think Spain is generally one of those countries that maybe similar, not dissimilar from the rest of Europe, especially post-world or baby boomer age, grandparents and parents, where they knew what it was like to have to ration. And maybe we got that a little bit here in the U.S. In the the 60s, 50s, but not like Europeans. Not like Europeans. I have friends from Germany and Switzerland and other places in the world that really, and the UK, that experienced what it was like. And those post-World War II, baby boomer type, the survivors of World War II, and then the generations right after, they knew what it was like to have to be frugal. They knew what it was like to have to live off of canned goods and other things. That they save everything, and they're and not just in a thankful way as well, but sometimes they forget as well. My grandmother was a very lovely person. She was a very lovely person. She was very charismatic, and she was thankful for her children. She was also of a scarcity mentality that was just over the top. And I got a lot from her because she was one of my best and most loving, unconditional examples of love that I ever got to have the privilege of having in my life. She passed away about 6 months ago, and she died with a gripped hand around a sadness that was always the sudden loss of all that was good in her life. And I feel for her, and I love her. And I miss her because there was a day when she was happy. There was a day when she was happy to have her grandchildren. And there was a day when she was happy enough to be distracted from just her normal, everyday stress of life, which was always something is being ripped out of my hands. Someone's taking something from me. There's just not enough to go around. And I know there's a generation that may have lived through some hard times and the times of not having enough, but my grandmother had an extra special dose of it just because of genetic stuff that goes on in our family. My family, especially the direct descendants of my grandmother, which is my mother, my aunts, and then my generation of cousins and me. And then out of that generation of my cousins and me, there's one person who seemed to get an extra dose of understanding all this, and it's me, of course. Because I had a mother that was extra special and she needed special attention. And then she was a child of my grandmother who was one of those people that needed special attention in various ways. And I seem to be the lucky one. I seem to be the lucky one that was, am I cursed or am I blessed? I don't know. But I'll tell you, I know that though I may sometimes feel like I've been cursed with this sordid life of misery sometimes, that I never saw it that way. I never have ever looked at my life that way, ever, until the last couple years. I never, ever, 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 though it may not seem like it, I never, ever, ever looked at my life that way, ever, until the last couple years of my life. My life has been filled with abundance of joy and laughter, and even amongst the most sordid and awful and just ugly of circumstances, from the day that I was freaking born until forever. Honestly, when I left home at age 16, I left home when I was 16. I got my license on my 16th birthday. My mother was moving away because of a really bad relationship. She needed help and she needed to be around family, so she moved closer to be with family, and I said, Mom, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving my high school. I'm not leaving my friends. I've moved around every 2 or 3 years since I was born. I'm in a place where I want to graduate high school with my friends in 2 years. I'm not leaving. And she said, okay. She didn't object to me saying I'm not leaving at all. She knew. She understood. And I had just joined a church and a religion that filled in the gaps so incredibly beautifully because of one person who reached out to me and grabbed me by the back of the neck and said, you're coming to church. And that person was, and that couple, it was a very lovely young couple, and they were leaders in our church group, and they snatched me out of a situation just like some friends did just in the last couple of weeks. They saw my life and what's going on around my life, and they said, you're coming with me. I'm taking you home. And some of them did it in the way of just, even if it was just reaching out enough to say, I hear you, I see you, I care about you. As opposed to, I see you, I hear you, I'm just annoyed the fuck out about you. And I got some of those. I got absolutely some of those. And I said, take that back. I don't want your offer. Your offer sucks. I have friends that have said, you're coming with me because I love you and we're going to take care of you. And we're going to feed you and we're going to clothe you and we're going to love you. And the minute you learn what it's like to let somebody treat you like shit more than you already treat yourself, that's the day you said, it's never going to happen again. And I don't mean to completely get on this topic because the topic was about the sixth mass extinction. But what I'm saying is there's waste. There is waste. And I have been hungry, literally, to the point where I know every freaking crumb that falls off my plate. And I was with my girlfriend this weekend with her kids. Just such a lovely, beautiful experience. And I have a new vision and view because I have a new perspective on life. The perspective that says, I know the value of every freaking dollar and every freaking piece of food that's in my cupboards right now. And I'm looking at my pantry right now, and I've got some pasta, and I've got some condensed milk, and some beans, and some top ramen, and what else do I got up here? I wanted something sweet, so I got a box of Jell-O. I'm looking for the biggest bang for my buck. $2.49. For some instant pudding Jell-O that's going to satisfy my sweet tooth. And I got a couple bags of rice. And I'm a thankful person. Like I said, my grandmother, the saving, she just saved everything, coupons and all the containers that you get from yogurts and butter. And because there was a day when you were going to need some of these things. And because they gave her a sense of control over probably a impoverished situation that said, hey, we're going to make a big bowl of pasta and we're going to save it and we're going to make I grew up on spaghetti burritos. The next day, after making a big pot of spaghetti for dinner, my mother would save that spaghetti, and I would eat spaghetti burritos. Talk about carb loading. Everything was always a taco or burrito. Seriously, I grew up on peanut butter and jelly roll ups in a tortilla flour shell. I grew up on everything was wrapped in a tortilla. And so here I am, probably fulfilling the frugal and let's make a penny or a dime last in this household, and I'm so thankful for everything. I've been a bit self-indulgent in my eating habits for a couple weeks now because I found some funds that are going to help me get through a little bit of period of time, and I was able to splurge a little bit and had some friends that brought me in home. And I said, I'm sorry that I'm eating out of house and home right now, but I swear as soon as I get back on my whatever, I'm gonna make you dinner. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to make sure that you understand and that I value everything that you've done for me. And I'm fearful to get into a place where I have to be so frugal where I don't need to be, but I end up doing it just because it's the habit that, like the generation before me, I noticed, and I just happened to notice it. But I do think that it would behoove all of us if we just would stop for a minute and thank the fact that we have the jobs that we have the country that we have the wealth that we have the ability to get up from dinner that we just planned for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of us, and we just dumped enough food onto the floor into the trash because we didn't take our leftovers home. Not because we didn't need leftovers, because it's nothing about leftovers, but it's about the fact that I'm watching a show about the mass extinction that we're worried about because of overpopulation. Meanwhile, a country like ours and probably many others that probably consume 75% or more of the world's wealth and food and things that come with abundance, that we are able to throw it in the trash because it's not because it's not good anymore, but because there was an abundance of it on our plate. Because we've gotten so used to indulging so much that, hey, I'm taking way more than I need, or I'm doing way more than I have to, because I have the abundance to throw it in the trash right after. Not because it's overpopulated the earth, not because of this, some of these excuses that just don't make sense to me anymore. It's because we have an abundance ability to throw it in the trash because we don't need it. We don't need this abundance. There are some people living very fat lives. And trust me, they're not the fat people we hide behind the scenes because they're too ugly for us to look at. I'm sorry, but we are hiding the fat and the handicapped and the less than because they're ugly. When really the ugliness is in the abundance of waste that the fat are truly not cutting. It's time to cut the fat, people. And I don't mean the fat people. It's time to cut the fat, people. Or let me just say it better. People, it's time to cut the fat. The fattened Buddha, he is happy. There's a fat Buddha. Have you noticed that? There's a fat Buddha, there's a peaceful Buddha, and there's a happy Buddha. We've gotten a bit fat, people. We've gotten a bit abundant. We've gotten a bit thankless. We've gotten a bit ahead of ourselves and said, isn't it amazing all this abundance we got here? Just love yourself and fluff it up a little bit. I'm not saying we need to go and beat ourselves up and put our head in the shit. But it's time to get our head out of the shit and out of the clouds and say a bit, hey, there's a lot we can be doing here. There's a lot we can be doing here. Just as a pose to a thought, provocative or a provoking thing. I have a friend who's in the service industry, who's done some really great favors for me. And I wanted to say, hey, if you get any clients, say while you're, he's in the hospitality industry, that, they leave their leftovers on the table, could you save it for me? Just because, if somebody leaves like a half a pizza or something that hasn't been touched, like it hasn't been touched, like I would eat it. I was going to be joking about it because I just wanted to say, hey, I know what it's like to be amongst the homeless. I know what it's like to be amongst the uber rich. I've hung out with the 1%. I have been there at their uber rich events and tables and whatnots, their charity events and their rallies, their car garages, their charitable fundraisers for politics, their everything. And I've been with the homeless in the street. I have slept on the streets with them. And I've seen even them waste. I have seen homeless waste. It's crazy. And I have seen the abundance of food that is overflowing our trash cans on the streets. Literally. Containers and piles of food overflowing our trash cans. And we want to look at 60 Minutes. This is nothing against 60 Minutes at all. This is nothing against 60 Minutes. This is nothing against really anything except blindness that is caused by a self-inflicted reason to turn away when the real problem is right in our very own front yards, not our backyards. It's in our speech. It's in the way that we turn our eye blindly at our own waste and want to call it the fault of the overabundance and how population. That we have to do this population control, which, may not be a bad idea, but when you want to blame an entire generation or entire race or an entire demographic for their problem because of their overpopulation, while you throw away food on your plate that could have fed somebody. Not that you would save this, because then people get so caught up in saving the food. It's not about saving the food that's left over. It's about not buying more than you need. It's about not taking more than you need. It's about not sharing a bit more by paying the taxes that could be a fair amount based on what is available to the rest of the world. And then call it the population overgrowth of a demographic that doesn't need to be taking up so much space because of their sprawl in the natural wilderness areas. I'm sorry. Things are a little bit backwards here. And I've said this before as far as what I thought was possibly going to be a flip-flop in platforms with the two parties in America that have so polarized this place. Who knows if we're going to make it through the next 4-year period once the new election and the new administration takes over. And that's really what it is. This is a system, and like I said, I'm not the most educated, sophisticated thinker when it comes to politics. But when you live in it and see it, I have an opinion that matters, and I think I have an opinion that makes sense. It doesn't always come out to be word for word true as far as people and identities and things that I blurt out, but I just watched Putin give a speech about how many tons of grain he's giving to Africa while he's dropping deadly bombs on his own neighbor. I don't understand that, but again, I don't understand the whole geopolitical scene as to why somebody would do that. Why would you give 250 or 50,000 tons, whatever it is, of grain, shipping free and everything, to African countries while you bloody and bomb a child's school in your own backyard? Because they want the ability to have a democratic system that threatens you. Not because it's threatening you, but because you're threatened by people feeling happy. You're threatened by people feeling free. yet you want to go provide food for people? What's wrong with that picture? I don't know. I actually don't know. I'm sincerely asking. But something is off to me. And again, if things are being played out in a parallel way that doesn't make sense, it's because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. The parallels don't make sense anymore. Get off your parallel universe stories, people. You're causing real confusion and real problems, and that is also partially what started this evening's emotions. And that is the fake news and the fluffed up, cover up stories that are just nauseating at this point have to end. I screamed a lot tonight here in a temper tantrum, an inducing of anger that was caused by a trigger. And the trigger was a remembrance of what it's like to feel that somebody is trying to appeal to me or gaslight me with a memory of someone that might have been dear to me at one point in my life, someone who's passed, or someone who wants to still make me feel like I can be owned. Like I can be owned by a social media group, an AI group, an IT group, a Hollywood entertainment group, a show, or anything of the fucking sorts. If they try to edit this audio recording, which they have always done in the past, the minute I hang up from this recording, they will be in a massive maniacal pursuit to edit it and to claim it and to copy it, to plagiarize it, to cherry pick from it, and like vultures and hyenas on the leftover carcass of whatever meal of an intellectual property hunt that I just did within my soul to draw out any passionate truth or any eloquence or any sophisticated engineering of words and beautiful spiritual things that I worked my entire life for. Whether it's an experience or going to school or learning or sticking to the golden rules that I firmly believe in, and the Constitution of the United States of fucking America that once held this place together like the structure I said 1 + 1 is 2. Is it wrong to steal from somebody? Is it wrong to steal from somebody? No, the answer is yes. Is it wrong to steal from people? No, the answer is yes. Is it wrong to steal from people? No, the answer is yes. It is wrong to steal from people. It's a golden rule, people. It's a 1 + 1. There's no other answer. It is wrong to steal. Call it what you want in your terms and agreements. It is wrong to steal. Your half-truths are nothing but total lies. Wake the fuck up. Your structures are going to crumble with every cover-up. Wake up, people. Your bad attitude is horrific. Wake up. Because every time you trigger me like you did tonight, twice you triggered me on purpose. There is a gang of idiots running this country. There is a gang of idiots running this city. San Diego, you are screwing up. And I don't mean everybody, like I never mean everybody. I don't mean everybody. There are some good people in this world. There are some good people in this city. There are some good people in this country. But for the most part, the leadership sucks. And the leadership needs to wake up or get the fuck out or let those of us who want to go, go. Because some of us want to get out of here. And some of us are leaving no matter what you fucking say. And the rest of you are going to wish we had stayed. Because you need us. We don't need your bad attitude. We don't need your bullshit excuses. But the Democratic Party is pissing me the fuck off. And I will leave that fucking party, and I will leave you with your sad lines by the aisle which I left to go make amends with the other side. And now I don't know where it lands because everybody is pitting everybody against each other. And there are some real truths that both sides know, but they're still at a fucking stalemate. You know why? Because they won't throw the shit at each other anymore. You notice that? There's very little of the old kind of bullshit. The pussy grabbing, throwing shit is no longer. You will not see throwing of pussy grabbing shit anymore. Because everybody's got pussy grabbing shit on everybody else. They will go for some of these strategical things that lie within a confine of whatever laws can still be enforced. But so many of the laws and our fundamental human and civil rights have been so bent and broken and breached that nobody knows what to fucking do. They can't tell their fucking asshole from their fucking hole in their head. And it's a real problem. I am telling you again, wake up and start appreciating what you have. And start uniting yourselves around something you all can believe in. Because when you start losing middle-of-the-road people like Mitt, when you start losing some of the beautiful history of people that live their lives to defend and fight for the structures like the Constitution upon which we live and survive, in our structures, from not just our social ability to not kill each other and be in an state of anarchy, but to really appreciate what the fucking New Deal and our social programs post-World War II were really meant for. And that was to get people doing something productive for all of us, not just a few of us. And not just because it was a social program that everybody who wanted to just barge through the fucking borders can live on. So that we could steal from the rich and continually live on their tit. But to do something and contribute something because it was meaningful to us. Everybody needs to wake up. And if you guys can't unite yourself around something, goodbye. Au revoir, people. Arrivederci. Cheers. Adios. Auf Wiedersehen. Arigato. Sayonara. I meant sayonara. Sayonara. And goodbye. Because that's what it would be. And it would be a sad goodbye. America, don't be the young lions that fail. Take your pride and do something productive with it. Start investing in something less than utterly, totally selfish. And let's wake up. And I don't want to put down any science that was in that 60 minutes, because it could have been an amazing rest of the 50 minutes that I did not watch. And I will spend some time, hopefully if I can get it, to really make sure that I'm giving a balanced opinion here. But I think there was something worth saying, and it had to do with the attitude that I got today and tonight, ever since leaving my little beautiful bubble of being with some friends the last week and now this weekend, with hanging out with their kids and just hanging out all day, with just watching movies and making food together and appreciating. It was a lovely time to reflect and realize that I didn't let the kids, anytime the kids said we're going to throw food off their plate into the trash, I was like, don't throw it away. Don't throw it away. No food goes in the trash this weekend. No food goes in the trash. And I scraped everyone in their plates clean. I ate maybe less off of my plate because I knew that the kids, we're not getting all the food. I put less food on my plate so that I could eat the leftovers on their plate. And I'm not saying that we have to do that. What I'm saying is, before I go out and become one of these bougie broke people, you have this beautiful life and a house and the bougie car and the bougie this and the bougie that, but you're broke, right? So you don't have enough to contribute, but you have enough to throw away. Something's wrong here. Start drawing back and conserving. Use less than you know that you need. Don't hoard. Don't hoard and take more than what you have to take. And don't live off someone's tit more than you have to. Our little ecosystem and within our social environments, the climate needs to change. And it's not something that we are to leave up to the magic wizard of the sky and the haunted hotel programs to let us know that Ouija, 1, 2, 3, should I go to the something, whatever. It's like, no. Make up your mind, people. Take control of your life. Stop living like a Ouija board, the roulette wheel. That's just like, what do I do? What do I do? You be a good person. Stop stealing. Don't kill people. Don't take more than you need. I mean, it's really just, don't be a dickhead. Don't be a jerk. Stop stealing and don't kill people. And live off the golden rules that, hey, there's rules. 1 + 1 is 2. And the Constitution is fairly black and white. Free speech. Don't yell, scream. Don't yell fire in a crowded theater. It's like, I guess there is some black and white. There is some gray areas in there. But anyway, that's it. I don't want to ruin the rest of this with something that, whatever, but I don't know. That's it. This is not going to have a fluffy landing right here at the end, but I just want the people, again, to stop being jerks to me. I'm not your enemy, number one. My happiness does not prohibit you from being happy at all. My carbon footprint is so minuscule. My social footprint can be just as small as it needs to be, but every time that you do something like tonight and today that triggers me, I'm going full speed ahead, even 10 times harder and thicker and more richer on anything that I can prosecute for or sue for or whatever. I'm going 10 times harder if you do anything like you did the last 2 years that even resembles, smells like, if I get a whiff of anything of the sort, including your dumb fucking show that needs to get under fucking control because it's an invasion of my privacy and I'm going after the jugular. So wake up. There's a new program going on. It's the Dave Espinosa Get Out of My Life program, or it's wake the fuck up and tell me who the fuck you are, because it's gonna get worse the longer and more you invade my privacy. This is David Espinosa. This is David Manuel Espinosa. David Manuel Espinosa Jr. Today is Sunday, September 17th. It's almost midnight. It's 11:48 p.m. This recording is 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 31 seconds just passed by. 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 36, 7, 8, 39, 40, 41, 42, and goodbye.